Welcome. Today is the final interview of our Second Chance Month series featuring the barriers faced by returning citizens upon re-entry to our community. We welcome Portia Bennett and thank her for taking the time to have a real conversation about mental health and incarceration. Portia serves as a diversion therapist with RACSB and works with the Rappahannock Regional Jail. Portia, what do you see as being the most common mental health challenge for those incarcerated? And what does treatment typically look like for those in jail or prison? I know you're speaking, very broadly here, of course, and from your experience.
Yes, sure. Well, first of all, Janelle, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this opportunity. And I would say in general, the most common mental health challenge that individuals face would be anxiety and depression. For my clients, those individuals that have serious mental illness, and I'm defining that as individuals that have schizophrenia, maybe major depressive disorders, so on and so forth, the challenges that those individuals typically face is not necessarily being aware of the resources that are actually available to them, and also how to gain access to those resources. So without intervention, these individuals could be at great risk for returning to the community and repeating some of the same steps because of those gaps in their road to recovery. And I feel that, certain times you find them running in these similar circles. The good news is that here at the Rappahannock Regional Jail, we offer multiple services for anyone that's experiencing a mental health issue. And those services include medication management. We have, I guess you could say, brief therapy. We certainly have linkage to substance abuse support. Currently, right now, we're not actually doing groups at the moment because of our COVID situation, just the COVID in general. We also have a peer specialist who can link individuals to the MAT program. And if eligible, individuals are able to access my program, which is diversion. And if we can't get them on the front end for diversion, then also we can do discharge planning services. We always encourage individuals to try to reach out to the RACSB for other community resources. We educate the community, even in programs such as mental health first aid. And so there's a vast array of resources available.
Okay. So you mentioned a program. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that program? Not the diversion program, but right before you mentioned diversion, you mentioned something I'm unfamiliar with.
Okay, let me see here. Maybe the MAT program?
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Okay, good. Sorry. Yes, so that is in in the community, and that is the medication assisted treatment program. That serves individuals who are, I would say, currently using substances, most likely opioids, and we have treatment for them, such as Suboxone and I believe naltrexone, and all sorts of medicated assisted treatment to assist them to function in the community and to get off of those substances. And they're supported by groups that we have in the community. And like I said, currently here, we can bridge that gap for individuals that might be interested, who feel that they could be at risk returning to the community without such support in place. So that's pretty much how we have a peer specialist who can educate them and get them screened for that program.
Okay, you really brought up two excellent points. I heard two things. One related, of course, to we have the mental health challenges overall that folks can that can be a barrier for folks returning from incarceration, but the substance use or misuse challenge as well can be an overlapping challenge for these folks and can really present a lot of barriers when someone is reentering, especially if it's known or they have to make known or it becomes known that they were working through substance use issues. So how do these issues really affect a person's ability to reintegrate, and what role can the average person play, say employers, landlords, et cetera? What roles can those folks play in successful reentry?
Very good questions. So for individuals that have, let's just say, a mental health diagnosis, or even if they're co-occurring mental health and substance abuse, first and foremost, you have to know that you have that diagnosis. Oftentimes, we'll see individuals who might, or perhaps are on the early end of realizing that there is something going on. And for those that may be used to self-medicating, it just can be a very slippery slope. So first and foremost, we have to make sure that they have had a chance to present in front of a practitioner to make sure that they can be assessed. Once they are and they have a diagnosis, then it's a matter of linking them to whatever treatment supports make sense for that individual. And if they are, it's easy to, once we have a diagnosis, if medication is appropriate, we can do so. Like I said, other types of, if they need medicated assisted treatment, so on and so forth for substance to break that habit. But if we're talking about community support, the average person can help an individual who perhaps has been incarcerated and has a diagnosis by just breaking the stigma and being supportive of our citizens that just happen to have been incarcerated. That can play out for employers. If they have job opportunities, certainly share that with DARs. There's many, I'm sure, agencies, even like Virginia Cares, I'm sure, they're, make those agencies aware that you have opportunities where you can assist individuals. For folks that might need housing, it would be nice if a landlord could link up with, I know there's Continuum of Care Committee or even the Central Virginia Housing Coalition to say that they could provide affordable housing for these individuals that need that type of support in place. Without it, their risk only increases, and it's extremely difficult to get out of the system and the cycle. So those efforts can go a very long way, and every effort can contribute to filling the gap for someone on that road to recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. And when someone is really trying to find the courage to take those first steps, as someone who wants to be in recovery, who wants to stop using, or wants to address a perceived mental health challenge, or think they might be going through a crisis in that regard, what would you say to them in terms of what their first step should be? What would be the recommended first step?
Well, once again, it certainly depends on where they are. If you are in the community, I always recommend, if you have a regular primary care physician, if you have someone who you can engage with, seek them so that they can try to assist you to maybe identify and acknowledge problems that you might be dealing with, refer you to resources. If you are on this end, if you are in the jail, reach out to whomever you can be comfortable with. Like I said, we have our officers often have lots of crisis intervention training and skills. So they're able to kind of point you in the right direction, very understanding, and it's a very non-judgmental staff that are here. It's all by choice. These individuals choose to be here. We choose to work here. So we're ready to meet people wherever they are and to guide them along their way.
That's an excellent point. It's really, really important for folks to know that there is non-judgmental help out there, and lots of folks like Portia behind the walls, but also in the community who want to help.
Absolutely.
So it's important to reach out and get that help.
Absolutely.
Portia, thank you so much again for taking the time to have a real conversation about mental health and the challenges overcome by our returning citizens. We know there are a lot of success stories out there, and we encourage everyone to visit FAILSAFE-ERA.org to learn how they can get involved.
Thank you, Danielle.